Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the GSMC Golf Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, Garrison McDaniel, and we got a great show for you guys today where we'll be diving right into all things golf, including our first segment talking about Bryson Dechambeau's fantastic win at the U.S. Open. This is his second major win in his career, second U.S. Open win in his career as he replicates the success he had in 2020 at the U.S. Open. Our second segment, we'll be talking about the rest of the leaderboard, the superlatives for the weekend, who stood out and who disappointed. Our third segment of the night, we'll be talking about Team USA Olympics. There's a little bit of controversy on who went and, more importantly, who didn't go. And that will lead us into our fourth segment, talking about Wyndham Clark. And is there something wrong with his game? Because he has been faltering the second half of the season. Seeing what's going on with him, looking at the stats, see if we can analyze something from the numbers there. Our fifth and final segment, we'll be talking about Neil Shipley, who became the 10th amateur ever to finish the low am at both the Masters and the U.S. Open. He's been playing some great golf, joining some elite company. We'll dive into that more in our fifth and final segment of the night. But before we get into all that, as always, guys, if you would like to become a bigger part of the show than you guys already are, support the show in more ways than you guys already do, use the tips and donations link at gsmcpodcast.net for any if you guys want to support the show in any ways, or if you want to ask me any questions, you can also do that there. And that'll lead us right into our first segment of the night, of course, talking about Bryson Dechambeau winning his second major in his career. Very fantastic win this was for Bryson Dechambeau, a guy that has really separated himself amongst a lot of these perennial golfers. He is clearly the best. So here's the thing, is because, I, of course, look at a lot of the live golf events as well. He doesn't do particularly well at the live golf events. His team is first in live golf. The Crushers are the ones at the top of the live golf standings. However, individually for Bryson Dechambeau, he hasn't won an event yet this year, and it's been interesting to look at some of his finishing and how he has performed in the events in live golf or in live golf in general. He didn't have the best event in Houston last week, and then going right into this U.S. Open where he played very good golf this entire week. Did things in areas of his game that I have never seen before, which very, very impressed me from Bryson Dechambeau. But for Bryson, when he's on the live tour, it seems like he gets up a lot more for these majors than he does for events on the live golf tour. It seems in the words that he says and in his actions that at this point he kind of regrets. Well, maybe not regrets the decision. He said on the Pat McAfee show that he made his choice and he's living with the consequences of it. So, take that as you will. I take that as more of he wants to play on the PGA Tour more than he wants to play on the LIV Tour. And I think that is kind of clear. And we'll see if there's a merger here soon that can enable that. Because let me tell you, Bryson DeChambeau belongs in the highest events in golf that golf has to offer, as he is one of the most exciting players in all of golf. No athlete in my recent memory has had this complete 180 in golf as Bryson DeChambeau has, really. I remember I couldn't stand him when he went to the LIV Golf Tour. I thought this guy was awful, and I kind of was happy because he was one of the first bigger names that left for the LIV Golf Tour. Of course, him, Brooks Koepka, and Dustin Johnson kind of led that catalyst of or the mass exodus of people going to the LIV Golf Tour. And I really didn't like him. And I remember really, really, being happy that he went. But now I just can't wait until, because there is an absolute future where there's a merger, and of course these talks will continue to happen. We'll talk more about that in segment 3, talking about the U.S. Olympics, because that does feed into that conversation as well. Everybody wants it to happen. It's going to happen sooner than later. I'm excited for when it does happen because I just want to see these fields be, so exciting again. Remembering the fields of 2019 or 2020, 2018, where it's just Dustin Johnson, Brooks Koepka, Justin Thomas, Jordan Spieth, Victor Hovland in 2019 when he was having his fantastic amateur year. Just so many great names in golf all together. Xander Schauffele, Collin Morikawa, Rory McIlroy, all these names in one field together is something that I can't wait to happen again. We see it every major, but we don't really see it to the extent that I want it to be with all these signature events. Of course, we're going into the Travelers Champions next week, which will have a full field minus Rory McIlroy, it seems. But it's still not a full field, and of course it's never going to be a full field until this merger does happen. So hopefully we get into these talks here sooner than later. But we do got to go over Bryson Dechambeau's scorecard from the U.S. Open here. He had a fantastic day one, going 3 under. I believe he was fourth. I think he was lone fourth on the leaderboard after day one. Started off on 13, gets it to a birdie, 18 birdie on a very difficult par 4 18. Par 4 third hole was also a difficult one this weekend that he birdied, and then the par 5 fifth, the one that everybody kind of birdied in the big moments this weekend. It was an important one for him to see another one drop. He does pick up a stroke on the 7th hole, but he played fantastic on the more difficult holes. On 6, he gets pars throughout the weekend. On 8, that's a par. On 2, he gets a par here, which was 4th. 14, 15, both tied for 5th most difficult hole on the golf course. He gets pars on. So played very well on the most difficult holes, just surviving them and taking it into par, and then taking his chances on the easier greens that the U.S. Open has. Of course, all the greens are they're called turtle greens, where it's like a humpback, where it's just feeding out on all sides. Very impressive what Bryson Dechambeau did on day one. Leads us into a day 2, which he didn't play his best golf, but he goes to 4 under, and he starts to, be one of the guys at the top of the leaderboard. After this day 2 here, we see that he's going to be in contention, as a lot of guys shot in the greens on day 2. For most of day 2, it looked like he was going to shoot in the greens, but he gets a birdie on the 6th hole, which is such a difficult hole. He's able to get a birdie on 18 to get to 1 under, with birdies on 12 and 13 in the middle of the tournament as well. Good round here, a 69. He shoots under par on both days. He shoots under pars on all day leading up to Sunday, as well as he shoots under par on the round 3. He takes the 54-hole lead after this third round here. He does start to separate himself from the pack. I believe he went into Sunday at 7 under at the top of the leaderboard. And, just impressive. What more is there to say about this guy then? He played 72 great holes of golf throughout this weekend, and he absolutely deserves to be the U.S. Open Championship. We'll talk more about what went right for him when we talk about the superlatives. There is one aspect of his game that stood out to me amongst the rest, and it's not his driver, which is always the talk of Bryson Dechambeau. But he was fantastic at other aspects of the game that I didn't think that really he had it in him. We talk about Bryson Dechambeau, and we always talk about how great he is at flying the golf ball, how fantastic he has always been at driving and distance. He was so accurate this weekend, and he was so accurate with greens and regulation, and he was so accurate with scrambling, and especially scrambling and putting was something that really stood out to me for Bryson Dechambeau. And he really deserved this U.S. Open. He was clearly the best golfer in the field this weekend. I know, you look at Rory McIlroy's kind of meltdown and think, well, Rory McIlroy could have easily won this tournament, and he absolutely could have. But Bryson DeChambeau absolutely deserves to be the winner here, and I don't think that we should be talking about Rory McIlroy so much as him melting down. More so, we should be talking about Bryson DeChambeau playing a fantastic weekend of golf. But on the round 3, he even double bogeys. On the round 3, he has a double square on his card on 16, which was such a difficult 528-yard par 4 on 16. It played as the 4th hardest hole on the golf course, and he didn't play too well on it throughout the weekend, but able to get some strokes back in the middle there. 14, 11, 10, 7, 5. He birdied on. He played fantastic on 10 and 5 specifically this weekend. The 2 par 5s that the U.S. Open has to offer. It was very important for guys to play well on 5 and 10. And we saw for the guys that separated themselves amongst the pack, it was those 2 holes that they were able to fly on the green and be able to play from the fairway for most of this tournament, and especially on those par 5 holes. In the U.S. Open and at Pinehurst, it was really important to not play out of the rough, as we saw on Bryson's shot on 18 in round 4, as I will show you the round 4 scorecard here now. This Sunday was kind of building up to the last 3 holes. I think that we saw that it was going to be it was going to be between Rory McIlroy. We saw it was going to be between him and Bryson DeChambeau, and it was really between 16, 17, and 18 where this tournament was won by DeChambeau and lost by Rory McIlroy. All the holes leading up to it, of course, it's important. Of course, you need to play well leading up to it, but these are the holes that separated those 2 players in this round here. Bryson DeChambeau able to get par on all 3 of those holes, where Rory McIlroy bogeyed 2 out of those 3 holes, and that's really the difference here. Rory McIlroy still finished with an under par card as he was sinking 10-foot putts left and right on 10, 12, 13, 9, I believe was a 10-foot putt as well. But for Bryson DeChambeau, he walks away as your winner. It's because of that 60-yard bunker shot on 18. He was asked. It's on his Live Golf profile. Before this tournament, it's on his Live Golf profile. He was asked in like introduction interviews for Live Golf, what is the most difficult or what shot gives you nightmares? And it's on his Live Golf profile, a 55-yard bunker shot. He had a 55-yard bunker shot to win the U.S. Open, the most difficult shot in golf. He sticks it within 4 feet of the pin. Absolutely just so impressive what he was able to do here. And Bryson DeChambeau is your U.S. Open winner. He takes the trophy. He walked around with the fans after. He had the time of his life. He really is just a fan favorite on the PGA Tour, and he doesn't even play on the PGA Tour. This is how just monumental, the last few majors he has had. Of course, he has a YouTube channel that helps with that as well. But truly, I think people are going to start tuning into Live Golf a little bit more just because of Bryson DeChambeau. Of course, he also plays well on the Live Golf Tour, his team being first on that tour in the standings. So we will see what this Bryson DeChambeau effect will be on golf. I do think that he will become the catalyst for this merger that's been talked about that will eventually happen one day, and I can't wait for that to happen because I do think that is going to be a very special time in golf when that does happen. So that'll wrap it up for our first segment of the night. When I come back, we'll be talking about the U.S. Open recap and giving some superlatives for the U.S. Open from the weekend.